Nobody inside NASCAR expected the focus to change this quickly. Just a few days earlier, fans were talking about playoff scenarios, driver rivalries, and whether Kyle Busch could add even more victories to a career that was already one of the greatest in sports history. Then, almost overnight, everything shifted. Suddenly, the entire NASCAR community found itself focused on something much deeper and far more personal: the family Kyle left behind. And for many people, that reality has been harder to process than anyone imagined. For years, fans knew Kyle Busch as Rowdy. He was one of the most aggressive, fearless, and controversial drivers NASCAR had ever seen. He never backed away from conflict, never felt the need to apologize for winning, and never tried to be anything other than himself. Whether fans cheered for him or booed him, they watched him every weekend. But beyond the firesuit, beyond the rivalries, and beyond the attention that followed him throughout his career, there was another side of Kyle Busch that longtime NASCAR fans knew well: a devoted husband, a proud father, and a man whose family meant everything to him. Kyle Thomas Busch was born on May 2, 1985, in Las Vegas, Nevada, into a household where racing wasn't simply a hobby. It was a way of life. His father, Tom Busch, worked as a mechanic and raced local late models. His older brother, Kurt Busch, was 7 years ahead of him and set the competitive standard that motivated Kyle from an early age. Kurt once made a comment that would eventually prove true. "You think I'm a pretty good race car driver? Wait until you see my brother. He's the best driver in the family." Kyle entered NASCAR's national ranks at only 18 years old when he signed with Hendrick Motorsports in 2005. It did not take long for him to make history. He became the youngest Cup Series winner at that time, and over the years he completely rewrote NASCAR's record books. He finished his career with 234 victories across NASCAR's 3 national series, the highest total in the sport's history. He earned 63 Cup Series wins, ranking 9th all-time, won Cup championships in 2015 and 2019, collected 102 victories in the Xfinity Series, and added 69 wins in the Craftsman Truck Series. Along the way, he drove for 3 legendary owners: Rick Hendrick, Joe Gibbs, and Richard Childress, and left a lasting impact at every organization he represented. One of Kyle's trademark celebrations came after victories when he would step out of the car and bow toward the crowd. It was a gesture inspired by his Las Vegas roots, almost like a performer taking a final bow after another successful show. Even fans who disliked him expected to see it, while supporters celebrated every time it happened. That was the Kyle Busch effect. For more than 20 years, he helped make NASCAR must-watch television. The final chapter of his life started quietly with what initially appeared to be a routine illness. On May 10, 2026, during the Cup Series race at Watkins Glen, Kyle radioed his team and asked for a doctor to meet him at the bus after the race. During the broadcast, Fox Sports reported that he had been dealing with a sinus infection. Despite not feeling well, he still finished 8th. Less than a week later, on May 15 at Dover Motor Speedway, Kyle dominated the Craftsman Truck Series race, leading 147 of 200 laps on his way to victory. Afterward, he openly discussed how he was feeling. "I'm still not great. The cough was pretty substantial last week." Even so, he pushed through it just as he always had. As fellow driver Brad Keselowski later explained, "Every driver understands there are countless people waiting for an opportunity to take their seat, which is why racers often continue competing even when they're sick." 3 days later, on May 18, Kyle shared a birthday message for his son Brexton, who had just turned 11 years old. It would become the final post he ever made on social media. He wrote, "Happy birthday at Brexton Busch. Your mom and I are so proud of who you're turning out to be. You're the best kid on and off the track. You amaze us every day. Keep doing what you're doing, and there is no limit to what you'll accomplish. Love you, buddy." On Wednesday, May 20, Kyle Busch was participating in a session at the General Motors Racing Simulator in Concord, North Carolina, when he suddenly became unresponsive. According to a 911 call later obtained by ABC News, the caller described Kyle lying on the bathroom floor inside the facility. He was awake but experiencing serious distress, coughing up blood, running a high temperature, and struggling to breathe. The caller even requested that emergency crews arrive without sirens. Kyle was taken to a Charlotte hospital later that evening. On Thursday, May 21, 2026, Kyle Busch passed away. He was 41 years old. 2 days later, on May 23, the Busch family released a statement confirming the cause of death. According to the medical findings provided to the family, severe pneumonia developed into sepsis, leading to rapid and overwhelming complications. Sepsis is a dangerous condition in which the body's immune response becomes uncontrollable and begins attacking its own tissues and organs. It can progress very quickly, and when combined with severe pneumonia, it can become fatal within a short period of time. The family asked for privacy and compassion as they came to terms with their loss. When the announcement was made, NASCAR lost far more than one of its greatest drivers. It lost a husband, a father, and a brother. To truly understand that loss, it helps to understand the family Kyle built away from the racetrack. Kyle and Samantha Busch first met in 2007 during a promotional event at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Samantha was a college student at the time and later admitted she had no idea who Kyle was. Kyle, reportedly too nervous to approach her himself, asked a public relations representative to invite her to ride in the pace car. The two spent months talking on the phone before eventually going on their first date. They became engaged during Daytona Speed Weeks in 2010 and were married on New Year's Eve later that same year. Building their family came with challenges. Kyle and Samantha spoke openly about their struggles with infertility and the emotional IVF treatments they experienced. Many couples face those challenges privately, but they chose to share their story publicly. Their honesty created a powerful connection with NASCAR fans around the country who were dealing with similar experiences. That journey eventually inspired them to create the Bundle of Joy Fund, an organization dedicated to helping families gain access to IVF and fertility treatments. Their personal struggles became a way to support others facing the same obstacles. Brexton Busch was born on May 18, 2015, and Lennix Busch was born through surrogacy on May 10, 2022. Brexton is now 11 years old, while Lennix is 4. At only 4 years old, Lennix is still too young to fully understand everything that has happened. That reality made many of the scenes during NASCAR's tribute weekend at Charlotte Motor Speedway especially emotional. Brexton's story has been followed closely by NASCAR fans for years. He started racing in 2020 at the age of 5, competing in the beginner box stock division in North Carolina. Within a month, he had already earned his first victory. By the time of his father's passing, Brexton had collected more than 100 youth racing wins across several forms of competition, including dirt racing, bandoleros, junior late models, and others. Fans who regularly watched him race often noticed similarities to his father's aggressive style and confidence behind the wheel. Kyle himself talked about Brexton's future only days before his death while discussing his all-time wins record. "All records are made to be broken, right? Maybe I'm training that young guy that's going to break it. My son Brexton." After Kyle's death was announced, Brexton reportedly changed his social media profile picture to an image of himself with his father. One Reddit user who watched the tribute weekend observed, "Kyle's son has a look on his face not of a grieving boy, but a young man taking care of his mother." Kurt Busch, Kyle's older brother and a member of the NASCAR Hall of Fame's class of 2026, remained by the family's side throughout the tribute events. The two brothers raced against one another for decades. At times the competition was intense, but their relationship always extended beyond the racetrack. Together they combined for 97 Cup Series victories, 34 for Kurt and 63 for Kyle. Kurt often said he believed Kyle would ultimately surpass him as a driver, and most people within NASCAR agree that he did. Childress Racing made one of the most meaningful decisions following Kyle's passing. The organization announced that the number 8 would be retired immediately and indefinitely, with one exception. The team stated, "Busch and Kyle Busch was instrumental in the design of RCR's stylized number 8, and it has become synonymous with Kyle and an important symbol for his fans in the NASCAR industry. No one can carry it forward to the level that he did." The number 8 is reserved and ready for Brexton Busch when he is ready to go NASCAR racing. Austin Hill stepped into the car for the Coca-Cola 600, driving a renumbered number 33 instead. The similarities to Dale Earnhardt's number 3 after his death in the 2001 Daytona 500 were impossible to ignore. Childress had kept Earnhardt's number out of competition for years until Austin Dillon eventually brought it back in 2014. For many fans, it felt like history repeating itself in the most heartbreaking way. The tribute weekend at Charlotte Motor Speedway became one of the most emotional events NASCAR had seen in many years. The garage area was unusually quiet. An empty chair bearing Kyle's name sat at the front of the drivers' meeting. The Busch family, Samantha, Brexton, Lennix, Tom and Gay Busch and Kurt, gathered around a black number 8 painted into the infield grass while NASCAR CEO Steve O'Donnell addressed those in attendance. He said, "Samantha, I want you to know that this sport stands with you and that you and your children are NASCAR family forever. Brexton and Lennix, your dad loved you with all his heart. Everyone gathered here, everyone behind you, everyone watching on TV, And all those people up in that grandstand are your family, and we've got you. All 39 cars in the race carried number 8 decals. During the pace laps, the field performed a missing man formation, leaving the position where Kyle would have started completely empty. On lap 8, the Amazon Prime broadcast went silent while more than 95,000 fans held up 8 fingers as the field thundered past. Bagpipers played Amazing Grace. Dale Earnhardt Jr. narrated a tribute video that reflected on a relationship that had once been one of NASCAR's most famous rivalries before evolving into a friendship. Daniel Suarez won the Coca-Cola 600, making the result even more meaningful. Suarez received one of his first major opportunities through Kyle Busch Motorsports, and in 2015 the two spoke on the phone every week as Kyle helped mentor him early in his career. Standing in victory lane while wearing a number 8 hat, Suarez said, "If it wasn't for Kyle, I wasn't going to be an Xfinity champion. I wasn't going to have my shot in the Cup Series. And to be able to win this race for him is unbelievable. This one is for Kyle, for Samantha, for Brexton, for Lennix, for all his family." Earlier that same day at the Indianapolis 500, lap 18 on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway scoring pylon displayed Kyle's name in honor of the iconic number 18. He drove for Joe Gibbs Racing during 15 seasons with the team. The response from across the sports world was immediate and overwhelming. Denny Hamlin posted, "Absolutely cannot comprehend this news. We just need to think of his family during this time. We love you, KB." Dale Earnhardt Jr. described Kyle as one of NASCAR's greatest drivers and shared how Kyle had personally taken the first step toward repairing their friendship. Kyle Larson called him, "the bar we all measured ourselves against." The Carolina Hurricanes and Montreal Canadiens held a moment of silence before an NHL playoff game. President Donald Trump issued a statement of condolence. Formula One, IndyCar, MLB, and many others also paid tribute. Fans who met Kyle throughout the years often described him the same way: genuine, approachable, and kind away from the spotlight. The Coca-Cola 600 on May 25, 2026, became the first NASCAR Cup Series race without an Earnhardt or a Busch in the field since 1979. Any fan younger than 47 years old had never seen a Cup race without one of those